When to use Azure SQL Scale-Up is a crucial decision for database administrators and developers who want to optimize the performance of their Azure SQL databases. Scaling up involves increasing the power of the database by upgrading to a higher service tier or increasing the number of vCores, which can improve the overall performance of the database. The first step is to monitor the database performance and identify the need for scaling up. This can be done by using the Azure Monitor metrics, such as CPU percentage, memory usage, and storage space. If the database is consistently using more than 80% of its resources, it may be necessary to scale up. Another key concept is to understand the different service tiers available in Azure SQL, including the general purpose, business critical, and hyperscale tiers. Each tier has its own set of characteristics, such as the number of vCores, memory, and storage space. Choosing the right tier depends on the specific needs of the database and the workload it will be handling. Practical examples of when to use Azure SQL Scale-Up include when the database is experiencing high traffic, such as during peak sales seasons or when launching a new application. Scaling up can also be necessary when the database is handling large amounts of data, such as in data warehousing or big data analytics scenarios. Best practices for scaling up Azure SQL include starting with a lower service tier and scaling up as needed, rather than starting with a high-tier service and scaling down. It is also important to monitor the database performance after scaling up to ensure that the additional resources are being utilized effectively. In addition, it is essential to consider the cost implications of scaling up, as higher service tiers and more vCores can increase the cost of the database. Database administrators should carefully evaluate the costs and benefits of scaling up and consider alternative options, such as optimizing database queries or using caching mechanisms. In conclusion, scaling up Azure SQL can be an effective way to improve the performance of a database, but it requires careful consideration of the database workload, service tier, and cost implications. By following best practices and monitoring database performance, database administrators can make informed decisions about when to use Azure SQL Scale-Up and ensure that their databases are running optimally.